This video is just on the beginnings of object-oriented programming. We came up with the problem of a library, and we took the fact that we needed a book class. In a test situation, you'd be given a class diagram. This forms part of a UML universal modeling language, and this is on the left-hand side here. This is an example of how a class diagram would look, and you would be expected to code from this class diagram. This class diagram shows me that I need a book class. I need those three fields, which the negative shows that it's private, the different data types, the names, followed by the methods that are required, the constructors, the setters and getters, and the toString. From there, you'll be given more detailed instructions on what should happen. The example marker location of this class would be 12 marks to create the class along those lines. The first thing you need to do is create a project. So you click on the plus in the folder, that's to create a new project. And we're going to create a Java application, and we're going to call it a memo to the exercise's name is OOPEx001. EX001. I'm just going to place this inside our Google Share and where the actual exercise is for you guys to be able to access at a later stage. You'll also be able to access the memo to it with the exercise. At the bottom here, you'll see that it asks you if you want to create a main class. A main class is where you would run your program from. I'm not going to do this because I don't want you to get into the habit of creating a main class with your projects, because you'll later on want to create a JFrame or some other element to be your main or where your program starts from. So I want you to be conscious of that decision on what should be your main frame, not just get it to create one for you with a certain class type. So we're going to untick that option, and we're going to give it a logical name, put it into a logical location. A lot of the times people don't put it in a correct folder, and then they don't have any sort of folder structure, and they can never find anything when they're looking for it. So please make sure you put in correct folder structures. Okay, so we click finish. When we click finish, you'll see it created a project on the left hand side there. You'll see the different windows up. I'm hiding it currently, so it will just minimize to the left hand side. I'm doing this for video recording space. You can keep it up at the top here. If your windows become whacked and you can't find things, for example, you can't find the project windows which will allow you to access the items, you go Windows and reset Windows. It will reset everything to your default, so you'll have access to what you need to. If you go to the projects one, you'll see sources, and here's your packages. Your packages will be the different classes you create, etc. The first thing you would do when doing this is you would go create a new class, and we want to create a Java class. In this case, we want to create a book class. When you create a book class, the naming convention of classes is it starts with a capital letter. Methods and fields all start with a small case letter. Classes start with a capital letter. In this, first we're going to create a package. I'm going to call my package something logical. Well, I'm going to call it Pac-Man. It's not that logical, but it's funny. So we're going to create a Pac-Man package with the class book inside it. So I'm going to click finish, and then you'll see here it would have given you, these are just comments explaining stuff. You can delete them. I'm going to delete them for sake of keeping this class looking very simple. Let me just zoom in a bit. Okay, so I've created a class called book inside the package called Pac-Man, and you'll see inside my projects now I've got a package called Pac-Man and my class called book. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is it asks that we need to create the following fields. The first one is negative, which means it is private, which means no object or no class external from this book class can access it. So we go private, and those are the names. What I want to get you guys used to, even with private, I mean, I'll type quicker than that, the shortcut control spacebar. Once you start typing something and you press control spacebar, it'll either auto-complete it or give you an option of things to complete. It is always advised you do that because it makes sure your case sensitive or your casing is correct. So I'm going to go private, and I'm going to say string, again str, press control spacebar. It will give me then the options of things to choose. You can use your cursors to select the correct one, or click on it, enter. And you'll see a string is a capital because actually string is not a data type, it is a class, and we're going to call it title. We're also then going to create a string author, and my author, so we've got title and author as being our two string fields that are there, both private as stipulated by the minus sign. You can also just go comma author if it is the same data type, you can just separate it by commas. That is sometimes the easier way, or it's the shorter way of doing it. However, it's either way, or it doesn't matter. So title and author are both strings. We now need a private variable of data type int called copies. So I'd go private int, and then I'd say copies, semicolon. Okay, so I've created my 3 fields, and it's very important you pay attention to this phase, that you've made it with the correct accessor, correct data types, that you've declared them, but you do not initialize. In other words, you do not give them any values here. If you don't do this, if you do not do this incorrectly, your later method creations will be difficult. Okay, now that we've created these correctly, we need to create our I'm just going to put there a note that these are the fields. We now need to create the methods. So the first method we need to create is the book method. Because it's got the same name as the class, we know that it is the constructor. So the shortcut to create your constructors and your setters and getters and your toString actually is Alt Insert. So when you click Alt Insert, you'll see it'll come up with generate automatically these things over here. We're going to generate automatically the constructor. Now our first constructor has a parameter of the title, author, and copies is received through the parameter and is initialized through the parameter. So we just tick all of them and we go generate. What this will do is it will automatically create my fully parameterized constructor. That is a term for this here. What you'll see is when you when I'm working with this, you'll see that title here creates a local variable called title, which has got the exact same name as my field title. So how it distinguishes which one you're referring to: when I say title, I'm referring to the local variable title. When I say this dot title, I'm referring to the class's field title. So that's it does it automatically, but you need to understand that title refers to the parameter or the value that's being received through into the title variable. And this dot title then refers to the field title. So all you're doing is assigning the value that is received through into the field title. Okay, so this is our fully parameterized constructor as given by that there. The next part, plus book, again it's got the same name, it's got no return type, it's got the same name as my class, which means that it is my constructor, and because it's got no parameters through to it, it means it's my default constructor. So again, Alt Insert constructor. This time it's not receiving any of the fields as a parameter generate, so it's created my default constructor. An important thing to remember here is you have to initialize your fields with the value. So I'm going to say my title. Now because there's no local variable title, I'm automatically referring to my my field title, my property title, will equal to, defaultly we just give it a blank value, so we initialize it so it does actually exist, whereas previous to it being initialized it doesn't exist. We initialize author as well to blank, and we initialize our copies to be 0. So we initialize all our fields to have blank values. Strings blank values is just a blank inverted commas. Double inverted commas stipulates that you are giving it a string. So in other words, you've got an array of characters being sent through to it. Single inverted commas would refer to a character, whereas we're referring to an array or a string of characters, so that's why we use double characters. There are other data types. So far we're only working with integer and string. These are the two very common data types, and you'll see there that integers we initialize with 0, strings we initialize with open inverted commas, close inverted commas. The next methods are my getters and setters. You'll see there it says GetTitle. So plus, sorry, something I didn't mention, the plus means that it's public. So I've got here plus GetTitle, which means it is a public method, but it is a toString method. Sorry, not a toString, it is a getter method, which is also known as your accessor. It means it's allowed outside objects or outside classes access to private fields. So what we do is we press Alt Insert, and you'll see there's an option here, add getters and setters. So the first thing I'm asking to create is a getter, which means it will, and the next thing it asks me to use it creates as a setter. But you don't have to do getters and then setters. You can actually create both at the same time. So I can say getters and setters, and you'll see in the question it only requires titles and copies. It doesn't require author. However, there's no problem with you just selecting all of them. I'm only going to select the ones that it's asked me to create, and I'm going to generate those. And you'll see here, plus GetTitle returns a string. So you'll see a public string GetTitle, so it returns a string, the data type it returns is given there, the name of the method is given there, and then it actually physically returns the actual title of the book. So the return statement shows what data it's going to return. .setTitle, it doesn't return anything, so it's void. Void means it will not return anything, but it receives through as a parameter a title. Now, and this will then change the title, the private title, which doesn't have access to the value title which has been sent through. At a later stage I will use these values and I'll show you how to do it from there. Now the next question states the get copies and set copies. Again, that's given to me over here. You guys can look at that and see the differences. And here the data return type is an integer, so it returns an int and will return the field copies, and the parameter this time is going to receive an integer value into it. Remember, you have to stipulate what data type the variables hold so that the program knows how to access them and what kind of data it is reading when it gets there. Okay, so the next question here states create a toString which will return a string. So again, this is part of my alt insert options. It's got an option there of generate a toString, so it is going to automatically generate a toString. So I'm going to pause this video for now just to make sure my class is where I'm at as far as creating this, and then I'll continue with it just now. Okay, everyone's up to here now. So we've created our getters and setters for our copies and title. One thing that is notable that was mentioned by my class, which I thought was quite interesting, author is underlined yellow, and the reason why is it's a suggestion on the fact that the field author can become final. And the reason why is we hadn't created a setter and a getter for the author field, which means there's no way of you changing the value once it's been given a value through the constructor. So meaning once the book's initialized, you cannot change that author. So you might as well make it final so that it dictates that this variable cannot change. For now we're going to leave that because the final we'll get to later and how to use final correctly. It's basically making a constant variable, but we'll get to that later. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be creating a toString method. So again, alt insert, and we go down to toString. It will ask you what fields do you want to return with your toString. Generally speaking, you'll return all of them, and you click generate. You'll notice at the top here it automatically adds an @override notation, and this is just to let the Java documentation know and the programmer know that you are hiding a parent's version of the same method. And what that means is because you've created a class, it is already an object. It's what the Java manipulates or manages as objects. And the parent toString, or it inherits from the object class, and the object class has a toString method which would return the memory location and the class name of that object. So we are overriding that, we're hiding that and giving it a more logical framework and structure. You just need to be aware of that now, but we're not going to go into detail. We're not going to learn how to extend or inherit yet. We'll hopefully get to that in grade 11. Alright, the next concept here, we've now done this class diagram, and this has given us 12 out of 12 marks, so it's quite an easy 12 marks to get. It's just a matter of you coding the correct class structure and coding this correctly, then all of these are just alt inserts, and it's done. Now, the question 2, if we maximize the question, it says modify your toString method to return in the following format: title by author and then the copy. So e.g. Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, 2 copies, sorry. So that's the structure we wanted to return. At the moment, if we look at our toString, here, you'll see that it's given it in the format. It would be book open curly brackets title equals that. So it looks quite a bit different to what we want. So the way we want our toString to look, let me try to see if I can't manage this a bit better so we can see both the question well with that while I'm answering this. Okay, so I'm going to keep the question up here, and I'm going to put So that's a bit of a fail. My bad. Okay, so I'm going to keep the question up here at the top, and I'm going to put the answer here at the bottom, just so we can see both of them fully. Okay, so in my toString at the bottom, I'm wanting it to look like this. So the first thing I want is I want to display my actual title, so Harry Potter or whatever the title of the book is. So I'm going to display the actual title. The next thing I want is I want the text by displayed. So I'm just going to say in here, this here, the fact that I go title plus the word by, and remember I've got a space by because otherwise I don't want it to be Harry Potter by as one word, so I add a space to make sure it is. It's called what's called appending. What I'm doing here is I'm appending one string to another, which means another term for this is concatenation. It's actually quite a complex calculation to do. If you had to do this in Excel or in anything, you're literally creating an array of characters, but now you're adding on a second array of characters to the end of it. You're appending one text to another text. If you had to do this manually, it's quite a complex function, but Java overrides the plus when you're dealing with strings. It will automatically acknowledge that you're actually just wanting to place this set of characters next to this set of characters or after this set of characters. So all we need to do for now, until you get to a later stage, and I'll explain this in more detail when you understand a bit more, is you just go plus, and this will automatically append title with the text spacebar, or the character spacebar, character B, character Y, character spacebar. Then it will append, after that it will append whatever is held in the author. The next thing it asks for is, it says it wants an enter, so we want to go to the new line. Now a computer needs to know, even in Word or in anything, when you're dealing with characters, you need to understand when the program must print or display on the screen on the next line. And the character to do this is a \n. So this is a new line character, which means it will now print on the next line. So I've added to my string of characters the character \n, which I know it's two characters displayed here, but it's stored or held or seen by the computer as one character. And that is your enter character, or your line break character, and this is represented by \n. I've then gone plus copies, which will then append the number of copies that are there. Now this is another complex function that Java automatically does. Copies is a numerical value. It is stored as an integer data type. So here I'm doing an integer data type, but yet I'm appending it to a string. So it automatically converts this numerical value of 0, and it changes the data type of it to be a string. This happens automatically. Again, this is another area where Java does it automatically for us, a complex function automatically. I want you guys to be aware of this, because I don't want you just to be okay, I can code. I want you to have a full understanding of what you're doing, and this will help you a lot as you progress in programming if you understand what's happening. So literally, appending a numerical value to any string will automatically change its data type from a numerical value to a string. And this would finish up to question 2 of this OOPEx001. We'll continue this. I'll have to create a second video, and we'll continue this for the rest of this exercise at a later stage. Okay, bye.